Johnny!
Is imagination simply contained in the mind? Or does it tap into an unseen world with messages waiting to be told? There is a place where legends cross over into our world, where strange visions and whispers beckon, and superstition takes hold. Step into the Black Cat's shadow.
Welcome back to the Black Cat's Shadow. Join us as we take a closer look at the cases of the strange and unexplained from all over the world and how they inspire some of our favorite horror movies. My name is Andy, and I'm one of your hosts podcasting from Kansas City, Missouri.
And I'm Dakota. I'm coming at you from Olathe, Kansas. And we're doing something a little bit different here. We're actually back on our horror road trip, but we're actually porting our podcast to video. For all you guys that are actually on YouTube or on Facebook, you guys are viewing this video, this is cool, because this is something that we've always wanted to try to do. I've seen some other podcasts do this stuff, so I kind of thought, let's port this into ours and see how it works. And as you guys can see, we're not the best-looking guys out there, but, you know, we got the women that love us, so...
there you go.
But on our horror road trip, we are actually in Colorado, and I'll let Andy go ahead and introduce what we're doing. I mean, if you guys are looking at our screen right now, you guys can tell what we're doing, but...
Yeah, so we are at the next stop on our road trip of horror, and the state we're going to talk about in this episode is Colorado. So we're going to just take a look at some of the spooky and interesting urban legends from Colorado, some of the ghost stories there, and look at some of the things that inspired the movie The Shining with Jack Nicholson. We're going to talk about the Stanley Hotel and see how that influenced Stephen King to write his story, The Shining, and just see what it was that freaked him out enough to write that story. So yeah, so it should be fun. You'll learn a little bit about the Colorado weirdness going on, and you'll hear our thoughts on The Shining too. So, the first story that I ran across was about the haunting of the Lee's family cabin. So, Steve and Beth Lee bought a cabin in 1991 just northeast of Colorado Springs in the Black Forest. But soon after moving in, they had lights and electronics turning off by themselves, and they would hear noises that they couldn't explain. Their children would see shadowy figures standing in the woods outside the cabin. Then there was a mysterious, horrible smell that was actually burning their throats and eyes. At first, the Lees just thought it was pranksters and installed a security system with motion detectors and cameras. The motion detectors would go off when nothing was there, and there was nothing seen on the cameras either. They actually beefed up the security system and added more cameras. They caught some strange stuff in the pictures like orbs, beams of light, and ghostly forms with faces. The family eventually decided they needed help and contacted the paranormal TV show Sightings that aired in the 90s. The Sightings crew actually experienced a lot of the same stuff the Lees did. They had cameras that were knocked off their tripods, and one of the producers said that something was trying to possess them. There was a medium working with them too, and she said there was more than one spirit there, and also sensed what she called a rift in space-time. One of the ghosts was identified as the son of a family friend that was believed to have died from a drug overdose. The psychic said the spirit told her that he was actually murdered. It seems that the hauntings are just centralized around the cabin, but they did see some weird stuff in the woods around the cabin, so maybe you could just go to the woods and see something since the cabin is private property.
What was the name of that cabin again?
So they didn't have a specific name for the cabin, but the family that bought it was the Lee family, and I don't know if they actually still live there or not.
And where in Colorado is it at?
So it's just northeast of Colorado Springs in the Black Forest.
Cascade, Colorado, I think, is where it's at.
Okay.
Yeah, here it is on ghostvillage.com. Actually, really cool.
Yeah, like the story is usually called like the Haunting of Black Forest, but it seems like all the stuff is kind of pretty much takes place within or around the cabin. So I don't know if there's really anything much going on within the forest itself. Although like I said, they saw some shadowy figures in the woods, things like that. So,
well, I wonder though. It's Colorado. I wonder what they're really seeing out there.
Yeah, it is. Oh yeah. I think there's a little help with some little wacky tobacky.
Yeah, a little of that. Hey, I ain't judging. I mean, what you guys do in Colorado is it's you. Some Colorado itself is pretty cool. I've been to Colorado like 6 or 7 times, and not for that reason either. No, I actually go to Colorado Springs all the time just because I love being there. It's gorgeous, clean air, besides the overwhelming smell of pot, But something I did notice is the gates of hell. I mean, you know how many places that they claim there's gateways to hell. But this is kind of cool. I mean, it's a physical place. I'm going to read it verbatim here. The tall, rusted iron gates let the curious know they are in the right spot. Not an adventure for the fearful, the gates of hell near Riverdale Road in Thornton, Colorado. Which Riverdale Road, if you didn't know, is actually a really haunted place.
Oh yeah. There's lots of stuff that they say goes on that road.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Thornton, Colorado is a place thrill seekers only dare to visit in groups, some complete with holy water and Bibles. It is a place where legend speaks of satanic worship, murders, sacrifice, and a lady in white who roams the nearby road, forever searching for her way home. And if you guys didn't know, Lady in White is actually a very common spirit around the Midwest. Have you ever experienced a Lady in White, Andy?
Nope, can't say that I have.
I've had a few people tell me that they've experienced Lady in White. When I worked at the state hospital, we had a patient that would claim to have seen the Lady in White. So I was like, I wonder. So I started doing a little research into it, and it's crazy because, I mean, he says he's been haunted by it. I mean, he's at the state hospital for a reason, but I actually believed him. I mean, I wouldn't put it past somebody to actually have seen the Lady in White.
Well, it is, like you said, it's a common legend that's told about in many different places, even like down in Mexico and Hispanic places. They talk about La Llorona, and I think that's the Lady in White for them. So it is a widespread urban legend or folktale. So you wonder, like, why is it so widespread? Is it because it's a common? Is it just something that people have heard that's very popular, so they just pass it along, and it just kind of takes root in each place as it goes along? Or is there like a widespread paranormal type event happening where people just see this Lady in White? Maybe it's I don't know. Maybe it's a guardian spirit. Maybe it's just some other common spirit that shows up that may have the ability to show up to more than one person in more than one place.
Yeah, there's a lot of lore surrounding Lady in White, but I mean, this one is just a wandering spirit. I mean, it could be anything. Something about this road. Actually, there's a great mansion there that was burnt to the ground. I mean, I wonder if there's some other stuff there that was inspired by this area in Colorado.
Well, actually, I did see some stuff about that mansion, and that's like you said, they call that the gate to hell in that spot. It's a rusted iron gate in front of ruins of the old mansion, and there's some chicken coops that are connected by a series of tunnels on the land, and people have found sinister graffiti and dead animals there, leading them to believe that satanic sacrifices and rituals take place there. Some even say human sacrifices have taken place there. But the mansion is known as the Wolpert Mansion. It was built by David Wolpert during the Gold Rush. He got married and had some kids. 2 of them were deaf and mute. Legend says he summoned demons to murder his family and burn down the house. Screams have been reported there at night.
I'm actually looking for a picture right now to put up. And there actually is it's a historical, not a historical site, but they actually have it marked off on the map, an actual place, which is cool.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, then people will know exactly where it's at. It's not just, well, it's by this tree, by this creek, somewhere over there.
Yeah, and it actually does look really creepy. Are you looking at a picture of it right now?
No.
Yeah, this is a daylight picture, and you could tell that this building's seen some better days.
Yeah, I think I think he actually did set it, like try to burn it down or something.
Well, supposedly he went crazy.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, not surprised. I mean, if he's really as tortured as he might be, there might be something else going on there. I don't want to dig too deep into it, but if there is something really going on there, it's not necessarily was it his fault, but it could have been something that drove him insane that caused him to burn down his mansion and maybe kill some people. We don't know.
Yeah, we won't know the actual truth unless, there may be some historians in the area that actually know the real story there.
And if you guys actually are from the Colorado area and you're listening or watching, let us know. Seriously, send us an email, let us know so we know the truth.
But so, talking about this Riverdale Road, I mean, like you said, there's a lot of urban legends about this road. There's reports of seeing ghosts of slaves being hung from the cottonwood trees on the side of the road, but there's really no history of slaves being kept in the area. There's also a Phantom Camaro with only one headlight that will challenge other drivers to race to the death. And apparently a guy that drove a Camaro was in a bad wreck in the 70s and died there. And also, like, that lady in white, some people think that she's a ghost hitchhiker that, if you offer her a ride, she'll just, like, disappear even before she gets in your car. But looking at some of the forums where people are talking about this, people in the area, they say that the Riverdale Road is not as creepy as it used to be, because there's been a lot of developments recently in that road, a lot of subdivisions being built, and new roads, more street lights, so it's not as isolated and dark as it used to be. But another legend on this road tells of a dirt road that leads off of Riverdale to a hill called Joggers Hill. The legend says a jogger was the victim of a hit-and-run accident there and was left there to die. So if you decide to stop at the top of the hill there, people say they hear someone running up behind them. So that would be pretty creepy to hear that. I would definitely be looking over my shoulder there, for sure. Yeah,
the ghost of Joggers Hill. The horrific tale of a jogger who was accidentally hit by a car at the crest of this Denver hill. What's funny is there's a lot of, like, I never hear anything about Denver. This is the first time I've actually heard something creepy about Denver. Other than the Broncos, of course.
Well, I've heard a lot of conspiracy theories about the Denver airport, and that's not something that we're not really going to... I didn't really do much research for this episode, but that might be something else we want to take a look at later on in another episode.
Yeah, we could do an episode about the conspiracy theories surrounding the NFL, and that there, or any other stadium that bodies could be buried underneath of. Jimmy Hoffa.
Is that where he's at?
Yeah, I don't think it's under Denver. I think it was what was that MythBusters episode where they were claiming that Jimmy Hoffa was buried underneath? Was it Giants Stadium? I
don't know. Could be. I would think it's somewhere in New York.
Yeah.
There's an interesting hotel. I mentioned the Stanley Hotel earlier, but there's actually another hotel I want to talk about, and this one's the Hotel Colorado, and it's on Pine Street in Glenwood Springs. It was built in 1891, opened in 1893, with 191 rooms that rented for $3 a night when it first opened, and that was for a luxurious room. Now the prices, today are a bit more expensive, at several $100s for the best rooms, and cheap rooms go for $110 a night. It's believed to be the home to several ghosts. People staying there are woken up by sounds and flickering lights that have no known source. Some people see a little girl with a ball wearing a Victorian-era dress and some have their stuff moved around or gone without a trace. The bell tower suites are said to be haunted, and the elevator goes up and down between floors with no one inside controlling it. There is a female ghost that likes to watch guys sleep, and there are weird smells all the time reported, but they can't find the reason for them. Another story says that a chambermaid was involved in a love triangle, and one of her lovers murdered her in one of the rooms. The room that she stayed in was so haunted that it is now closed to the public, and it's a storage closet. Yeah, if you go to sleep in one of those rooms, you might just find this female ghost watching you sleep. That'd be kind of creepy.
What was the name of that hotel?
It's called the Hotel Colorado.
Yeah, I just brought it up. It's in Glenwood Springs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I would like to actually stay there. I think when I go back to Colorado, I'm gonna go stay there.
I've actually stayed the night in haunted hotels before, and to be honest, I haven't experienced anything. And I think it's one of those things where you have to really like investigate a haunting or something. I feel like you have to really spend a good amount of time at a place to really like be able to tell, like, because like people say all the time, well, you can't predict when something's going to happen, and so if you just stay there stay there for one night, it's so hit and miss that something may happen or something may not happen. So it's kind of like it's hard to say, like, just by staying there one night if you're actually going to have some kind of experience. It's one of those things where you have to like go back repeatedly, and then you may have some weird experiences over the time that you've been visiting there. And
for you guys, actually Colorado natives, we talk about ley lines all the time, and you can actually see on my screen I brought up Amazon.com. There's actually a book out there for you guys called Colorado Anomalies, Ley Lines, Earth Mysteries, and Cosmic Coincidence. It is actually an ebook for free on Kindle or on Amazon or whatever. It actually has some pretty good information about ley lines. It's something that you guys might want to check out. But we talk about ley lines all the time, and how there's different causes for them, and it's just how it's weird how each one they connect and they create this odd shape. And we always talk about how when something bad happens, when say it was I don't want to open up any old wounds for anybody, but the Aurora shooting at the theater, it's a tragedy. Well, it creates negative energy. So I mean, I can understand why a lot of people say that, oh, you're crazy. Well, look at some of the pictures that I'm putting up on here. Some of them they're weird connected areas, and you can tell where other things are going to happen. Like here, Anderson Heliport, all the way down to Red Rocks Amphitheater, up to Denver Airport. Well, some of the places, there's North Glen, Thornton. Thornton is like right in the middle of that. And we're talking about Thornton, Colorado, being a hotspot. So it makes sense that that places where some like tragedies have happened have created this triangle. That's literally what it is. So it almost looks like a pyramid because of the way the lines are shaped. But in between are North Glen, Broomfield, Thornton, Westminster, Berkeley, Colorado, places where tragedies have happened. And it's not just tragedies, but they're weird, they're anomalies.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Aurora, and just east of Aurora, out on County Line Road, there's a bridge. It's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, but people know about it. It gives plenty of people the creeps. The bridge crosses the Kiowa Creek. I hope I pronounced that right. The legend says that was a massacre of Native Americans at this site, and if you go there, you hear their drumming, and the longer you stand on the bridge, the louder it gets. There's also stories of a ghost horse rider, and people claim to see either the ghost or hear hooves of a horse on the bridge. So you probably should be careful stopping on the bridge, though. In 1997, there was a really bad car wreck involving some teens that wanted to go to the bridge but were driving way too fast and lost control of their car and crashed into the guardrail. And there was actually a second carload of teens right behind them, and they tried to stop, but the driver stomped on the gas instead of the brake and lost control and crashed into a tree. So 2 of the teens were killed in the crash, leading many to believe that these teens also haunt the bridge. So it sounds like there's a lot of things that happen in that spot with the Native Americans, with the car wrecks, whatever else, gives what if you want to call it negative energy or whatever, just gives this place a weird atmosphere, I guess.
Yeah, I'm actually looking on a website right now called hauntedplaces.org. It's talking about the train bridge over Kiowa Creek, and there's a couple people that have commented on it. This one by Aurora Kid from February 22nd, 2015 at 11:15 p.m. Well, if you're a kid, why are you up at 11:15 p.m.? Come on. It says, I live on the east outskirts of Aurora and I hear a train, not a semi, going down Smoky Hill Road every night around 9:15 p.m. And I don't believe there are any trains on the east side of Aurora. I mean, looking at the map here, there are some train tracks, but you can see where all the different... Well, there are actually train tracks there. But I don't know if they're active.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting to know that if there really was a ghost train there. But I mean, Colorado, I don't know how many of the areas in Colorado are still Native American land.
I have no idea.
I don't either, but Wikipedia is a good source of information for Colorado. There's a lot of stuff here.
Well, I know that, like, down in the Four Corners area, which we'll get into here in a minute, there's, a large Native American population in that area, which is the corners of Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, and Arizona. Those four states kind of meet, at the Four Corners. So that's a heavy Native American region right there. So I don't know. There's probably a reservation around there, but I'm not for sure.
Yeah. I'm looking at the Territory Act that kind of split up the Nebraska Territory, the Utah Territory, and the Kansas Territory, and the New Mexico Territory, which there's a lot of stuff going on with that. 30 days later, on February 28th, 1861, outgoing U.S. President James Buchanan signed an act of Congress organizing the Free Territory of Colorado. The original boundaries of Colorado remain unchanged today. The name Colorado was chosen because it was commonly believed that the Colorado River originated in the territory, and that would have been after the Civil War, right? The Civil War ended in
1865.
Okay, so it was before the end of the Civil War. Okay, well, there's a lot to know about Colorado. I would, if I could learn everything about Colorado, I would, just because it was my favorite state to visit.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting. And there's actually a interesting highway that I want to talk about. It's called the Devil's Highway. It's Route 666, or it used to be. It's known as Route 491. It's a 2-lane highway running through southwestern Colorado. And so they changed the name back in 2003 because it was Route 666, or most people call it by its nickname, the Devil's Highway. The highway was renumbered because of the negative associations with 666 and all the roads. It's funny, all the road signs for Highway 666 were actually stolen, as people just wanted to claim their own satanic souvenir, before the name change, which is kind of funny. People claim the highway was cursed, and it is a strange, curious fact that the number of accidents on the highway have actually declined since the number was changed from 666. Even with the new name, people still claim that there's weird, wild stuff happening on this stretch of road. Is it just people being psyched out because of 666? Who knows? One of the most popular stories is about Satan's sedan. People say that as you're traveling down that Devil's Highway, as the sun goes down, you may just begin to see headlights bearing down on you. There's a ghostly black sedan that tailgates people and scares people so much that they pull over to get out of the black sedan's way. Sometimes people actually see the black car speed past them, but others say the black car disappears as soon as they pull over. And another story is about the Hounds of Hell on this stretch of road. It's a ghostly pack of vicious dogs. These hounds are able to run and keep up with cars driving by and are blamed for the many accidents that have happened there. They are said to have razor-sharp teeth that they use to shred tires. In some cases, the hounds even are able to jump into an open window of a passing car and attack the driver. Many cars have broken down on this highway. The flat tires and overheating engines are surely the work of the devil, many claim. Some that have to pull over to fix their car are visited by an angry ghost driving a semi-truck. They say that the truck tries to hit them on the side of the road. There's also a ghost of a young girl in a white dress spotted along the road too, but she's pretty harmless. And there's also reports of skinwalkers on the highway. And what are skinwalkers, you may ask? Well, we'll get to that here in a little bit. There is even cases of people traveling on the highway and disappearing without a trace. Sometimes they find a car or other piece of personal property, but sometimes they never find a thing. There have been cases where people have disappeared for hours or even days and then reappeared, not realizing they were gone at all. To them, it seemed like it was still the same hour or day as when they first disappeared, and they have no memory of what happened in that lost time. Sometimes people do notice lost time, and saying the trip down the highway took a lot longer, but they just have this missing time with no explanation. So that's kind of weird. I don't know if I want to travel down that highway because I don't want to disappear or be attacked or have my car break down.
Yeah, and Ground Zero actually covered this also on the radio. Around our area, it'd be 98.1 because that's the frequency they pick up. But they were talking about people that have had those experiences with time lost. And a lot of them claim to think that it's extraterrestrial also.
Yeah.
Because they have this time lost and they have this weird uneasy feeling after they exit the highway. And a lot of those, I think Highway 491, which is what Highway 666 turned into, actually reaches Camp Verde, which is another creepy spot, which is in Arizona. Did we already?
Yeah, I guess
we didn't.
Yeah, I guess we missed that one.
Camp Verde is creepy.
Yeah, usually with missing time, that's usually associated with UFOs, with like alien abductions, because usually people will claim to see some kind of unidentified flying object in the sky, and then they'll have these hours of missing time, and they can't explain it. So usually the phenomenon of missing time is linked to UFOs, alien abductions, things like that. So who knows? Maybe that has something to do with the stuff on Highway 666.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, I would love to go out there myself and experience that time loss. I just wish that I could actually make a trip. I mean, with the baby coming and everything, it's kind of hard to do that.
Oh yeah, there's no traveling with a newborn, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I had mentioned skinwalkers earlier, and this is a really fascinating thing, like topic of discussion for me. It's one of the most popular Native American legends in Colorado. And, basically skinwalkers are shapeshifters, and the Navajo rarely talk about them, even within their own tribes. The topic it's strictly taboo for them. And unlike the European werewolves that are, and that we see in movies and things like that, the person is attacked and bitten and then becomes a shapeshifter. The skinwalker actually desires this power, and they're willing to commit acts of evil to gain it. So one origin of the legend is that the Navajo learned this ability to escape persecution, while some believe that Anasazi people were responsible for the spread of this so-called witchcraft in Navajo tribes. So a skinwalker starts out as a shaman or medicine man who gets supernatural powers through breaking cultural taboos like murder, seduction, or corruption of a family member. These skinwalkers are banished from their tribe and forced to wander alone. They're different than werewolves. They can actually change into any animal they want, but most common forms are coyote, wolf, cougar, fox, owl, or crow. When they're in their animal form, their eyes actually look like human eyes, and it's vice versa. When they're in human form, they have animal eyes. It's kind of creepy. Some of the legends say that skinwalkers have the ability to body snatch, but that they can take possession of another person if they lock eyes long enough with them. Not only possessing their victims through the eyes, but skinwalkers are also said to have a certain level of telepathy. They can actually read their victims' minds through locking eyes with them, or even mimic the other person's voice to lure people to them that may have been close to their previous victims. Skinwalkers also collect hairs from a potential victim, and a voodoo-like ritual can control them with their hair. They make them into like a voodoo doll or something like that. Most encounters with these beings describe them as very malicious. Physically, they are described as fast, agile, and even deformed figures somewhere in between human and animal. Most are seen naked, but some wear like ripped up clothing. And the only way to kill them, according to legend, is with a bullet dipped in white ash. Skinwalkers are said to be around the Four Corners area, like I mentioned, which is where the corners of the 4 states meet: Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, and Colorado. So that what do you think about Skinwalkers, Dakota?
Well, we've talked about them a lot before, and Skinwalkers are a big legend in our area, as long as most of the United States, actually. The Navajo are a very suspicious group of Native Americans. I don't mean to offend anybody. I really don't. But there's a lot more Navajo urban legends than there are any other Native American urban legends. One in particular, I don't know if you know, but the most prominent history of the Skinwalker tells of a particular form of Navajo witch, or I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce this. They named it, or called Ai Nal Dalush. I don't know how to say it, honestly. You guys can see it on the screen. It translates to mean, with it, he goes on all fours.
That's the Navajo name for the Skinwalker, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. But they're usually a medicine man or high-ranking priest who's obtained supernatural powers through breaking cultural taboo. Which, I mean, you've mentioned that. Which, actually, it's... We've mentioned a lot of weird things before, but this is where it kind of gets weird. Murder, seduction, and corrupting of a family member. I wonder if those all coincide together.
Yeah, I mean, murder and like incest. It sounds like, yeah,
maybe just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, like killing a member of your family or like corrupting them in some way. What I don't know like exactly what the taboos were, for their culture, but
yeah.
So like negatively affecting your family, like turning your back on your own family or betraying your own family.
I just realized something. For people out there who have heard me mention it before, Penny Dreadful, the series that was on Showtime. So I realized major spoilers if you guys haven't seen it before, but the guy that plays Ethan Chandler in that, he's not a werewolf. He's a skinwalker.
Oh, okay.
Because he's supposed to be the Wolfman, but he was turned into a werewolf by his Native American father because of his past sins, so he could atone for them and help them rebuild their nation. But he's an Apache, so what? I think there's also a Skinwalker legend in the Apache stories also. I'm gonna look it up, but
yeah, I know. I mean, I have a friend she's Cherokee, and they have the same. They have the Skinwalker legend in their culture too. So I think it's pretty common when I think amongst a lot of Native American cultures. Sounds like.
Which, I mean, it's crazy that most of these cultures will mention skinwalkers or mention a creature much like a skinwalker. It's almost too much proof for it to not be true.
It doesn't seem like, because with the kinds of people that tell these stories, like within the Native American tribes, it's elders that tell these kind of stories and things like that. I don't know. Are what people seeing? Are people just seeing things, or is their mind playing tricks on them? Are these so-called skinwalkers just playing tricks on people? Are they wearing animal skins? It's hard to say exactly if these people actually have the ability to transform into an animal. I can't say with any degree of certainty if they actually can or not, but it's an interesting topic. It's an interesting urban legend for sure. Yeah, and it's crazy how many different reiterations of the Skinwalker we see in popular media, or even in just books, or just different stories we hear from different people just around different parts of the world. Like, I mean, the legend in California may not be the same as it is in New York. Right. So it changes a lot, but there's always those key similarities that go back to the mythos that we've been talking about with Native American lore. Yeah, that's interesting. Just the whole Native American culture has always been fascinating. But yeah, so kind of getting to our main topic here is the Stanley Hotel. The main inspiration behind the movie The Shining. So, if you've seen The Shining, then you're familiar with the creepy Overlook Hotel that was the setting for the story. Stephen King was inspired to write The Shining because of experience staying at a hotel in Colorado called the Stanley Hotel. It's probably one of the most popular haunted places in Colorado. It's located in Estes Park. It first opened in 1909, and it's over a century old, and there's plenty of history to this place. Going back to Stephen King's encounter in 1974, Stephen King and his wife Tabitha stayed one night in room 217 while on vacation. So when they got there, they found out that they were the only guests in the hotel. The hotel was getting ready to close for the season, so that night Stephen King had a dream, and this is what he dreamed. It said, and quote, "I dreamed of my 3-year-old son running through the corridors, looking back over his shoulder, eyes wide, screaming. He was being chased by a fire hose. I woke up with a tremendous jerk, sweating all over, within an inch of falling out of bed. I got up, lit a cigarette, sat in the chair looking out the window at the Rockies, and by the time the cigarette was done, I had the bones of the book firmly set in my mind." So that was his experience that inspired him to write The Shining. And the story behind room 217 is that there was a power outage due to a storm, and the manager had the head maid at the time go room to room lighting lamps, which was their backup lighting at the time. So in room 217 there was actually a gas leak that no one knew about. So when she stepped in the room with the open flame, it caused an explosion. The maid did survive the explosion, but is still said to be the ghost haunting room 217. And in room 401, there's a male ghost, and women feel their hair being played with in the closet. Or they feel an arm around their shoulder or waist, or a hand moving up the back of their leg. Men don't feel welcome in this room, and they have felt someone pressing them down into the bed or their jewelry disappearing. This is also the room that Jason from the Ghost Hunters TV show stayed in and had a drinking glass shatter while he was sleeping, and the closet door moved on its own. So there are several other rooms and other areas that have had strange ghostly encounters reported. The actual hotel was not used in the filming of The Shining, though. The exterior shots were filmed at Mount Hood's Timberline Lodge, and the hedge maze that was created at the studio, but the Stanley now actually has one in honor of the movie, because it's in the movie, so that's pretty cool. Dakota, have you ever been to the Stanley Hotel on your many Colorado trips?
No, actually I have not. I want to now that I've actually have a greater appreciation for The Shining and greater appreciation for the state. I think next time we're going, that when we go, we're actually gonna go. But one thing I do like about the hotel that they actually, because the hotel that you said, the hotel that they used for the movie was not the actual hotel that it was based off of. But another cool thing about that was the design for the hotel used in the movie was actually based off of the Ahwahnee Hotel, which basically uses a lot of Native American designs that kind of made it into the movie. And I'm putting it up on the screen now, and it looks pretty cool. I like some of the I like the vaulted ceilings, and I like the architecture. It's beautiful. I'll just go right out there and say it's just gorgeous.
Yeah, the one in the movie was really beautiful too.
Yeah, and it's something funny. I used to work security in up around Kansas City, Missouri. I actually worked over at the Adams Mark Hotel, which used to be the Holiday Inn, and you'll know where it is, the Cocoa Keys Resort.
Oh yeah. Right by the Arrowhead Stadium.
Yeah, that hotel is creepy as hell. I did security there overnight. It was probably, I think, like 11 p.m. to like 7 a.m. I mean, 6 hours, not bad. But 6 hours in a creepy hotel where there's nobody staying, yeah, it's creepy as hell. And there's a floor. The bottom floor, which almost like the basement, looks just like the hallway from The Shining that that Danny goes into with the checkered floor. I'm showing it right now on the screen. It looks creepy as hell. I swear to God, and it is quiet. And there are people. They only put a few people down on that floor, ever. So you're down there, and when you hear like little noises, and you don't know that there's people in those rooms, you freak the hell out. I would avoid that floor. yeah, just to show how creepy it was. I'm not one to scare very easily, and I avoided that floor. So I'm checking this out. The twins from the movie, which was it, Lisa and Louise Burns?
Sounds right. I don't really know offhand.
Are they midgets or little people? I should say, because they look.
I don't know.
They look really small in the picture I just saw of them.
Are they older in the picture? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, but they. I mean, I hate to be offensive, but they still look creepy as hell.
Yeah, they didn't have any makeup or anything on in the movie, and they were really creepy. But I think that's just like because they were kids and they were standing. Just they were very good actresses. I mean, in that movie, I mean, just the way they stood there and the look that they had on their face and the way they talked, it was very creepy. I mean, they did a great job with that.
Yeah, man, they are creepy. But I think that's one of my favorite scenes though in the hallway when Danny comes around on the trike and he sees the little flashes. Come play with us, Danny, forever and ever and ever.
yeah, that's the creepy part when they say forever and ever, I think.
Yeah, I like the Stanley Kubrick is a genius. Here's some trivia for you. What other movie did Stanley Kubrick direct that was also really creepy?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I can't think of any other like horror movies specifically that he directed. I know he did like 2001, Full Metal Jacket, Did he do One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? I don't know. Maybe not.
Well, maybe. But the one movie that he did that was really creepy that actually got banned from a lot of places is A Clockwork Orange.
Oh yeah. That was a pretty brutal movie. For sure.
Oh yeah, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. But I really appreciate how well he can balance out horror and also balance out some like really cool like little things in there. Here's an interesting fact about the movie. There's an elaborate theory that the moon landing was faked and that Stanley Kubrick did it. The Shining supposedly serves as Kubrick's confession, hiding clues in plain sight, like the Apollo 11 sweater that Danny wears.
Yeah.
All superfluous. Is that how you say that? Superfluous?
Yeah. Superfluous.
All superfluous details he deliberately chose to include. Also, as they weren't in the book, notably Danny's Apollo 11 sweater brings the moon landing to mind, in addition to the number of haunted room being changed from the novels 217 to 237. The moon is 237,000 miles from Earth. The known space drink Tang being prominently displayed in the hotel's pantry. Yeah, that's a lot of little clues. I don't know.
Isn't there I think there's I'm trying to look it up now, but there's a documentary called Room 237, and I haven't actually watched it, but it talks about it's an exploration of various interpretations of Stanley Kubrick's horror film The Shining. So I think in that documentary they talk about some of the symbolism in the movie, as pertaining to his confession of faking the shuttle landing on the moon, things like that. So it'd probably be an interesting documentary to watch. Definitely will give you some new things to look for when you're watching the movie next time, I imagine.
Yeah. Another really cool fact is Jack Nicholson actually wanted Jessica Lange to play Wendy's role in the film.
Yeah, I think I saw that on the trivia when I was reading it.
Which, I mean, I think that would have been cool. I think Jessica Lange would have been an interesting part for that.
Yeah, you never know. So let's kind of get into talking about The Shining from 1980.
My grandmother and I could hold conversations entirely without ever opening our mouths.
Danny. Forever and ever and ever.
She called it shiny.
So The Shining was directed by Stanley Kubrick, like we said. Like you said, he did Clockwork Orange, Full Metal Jacket, 2001: A Space Odyssey, and it was based off Stephen King's novel, the same name. And Stanley Kubrick, he also wrote the screenplay. Him and Diane Johnson wrote the screenplay for this. And then the cast, you have Jack Nicholson as Jack Torrance, the main guy, are not really a protagonist, I would say. But, Jack Nicholson, if you don't know who he was also in Mars Attacks. Trying to remember who he played in Mars Attacks. Was he the president?
Yeah.
I can't remember now.
He was the president.
Okay. President, yeah. He was in Wolf, where he turns into a werewolf. And he was in Batman as the Joker, of course. And Shelley Duvall, she played Wendy. And the only other thing that I can really, name her from was she played Olive Oil in Popeye. The Popeye movie with Robin Williams, I think she... Especially that dress that she's wearing at the beginning of the movie, it just reminds me of Olive Oil. That's all I could think of. Seeing that red... She had this red, knit dress thing on, this denim thing. I don't know, it was weird. It was like a 80s thing, I don't know. And then you have Danny Lloyd as Danny. And then interesting character, Scatman Crothers, was Halloran. He was the head chef at the Overlook Hotel, and he's the one that tells. Well, we'll get into it here, but some of the other things that he's been in, Scatman Crothers says he was the voice of Jazz in the Transformers cartoon from the 80s. He was in the Kick the Can segment from the Twilight Zone movie, and he was in one of the Kolchak the Night Stalker episodes. That it's an old TV show from the 70s, but he was in an episode of that. So if you've never seen this movie, here's kind of a rundown of the plot. So it focuses on Jack Torrance, which is Jack Nicholson. He takes a job as a caretaker for the Overlook Hotel during the off season when the hotel's closed. So basically, the reason why they need a caretaker, they need somebody to stay there all winter to they said to rotate the heat around the hotel, do some minor maintenance during the winter. They still heat different parts of the hotel, so they're not wasting money heating the whole hotel all winter. They can just heat certain parts at different parts of the winter to save money. But anyway, so they need somebody to actually manually change around the heating, whatever. So he and his wife and son are staying there for the winter, and so they're going to be there all alone, and they won't have many opportunities to leave it once the winter starts because the road gets closed because of the snow. The hotel has a lot of history and has had some bad stuff happen there that they tell him when he first interviews for the job. And one of the caretakers actually, in the past, actually murdered his family and committed suicide. And so as the Torrances, they get settled in for the winter, these really strange things begin to happen, and you're kind of left wondering: is there really a dark energy left over from the tragedies of the past that have happened at this hotel, or is the source more psychological? Is Jack Torrance losing it? Is it all in this family's head, basically? So that's kind of the rundown of the plot. I don't want to really spoil things, but I do want to talk about our thoughts on the movie, what we thought about it, what the things that we liked, the things that we didn't like about it. Dakota, what's your overall impressions of the movie to start out with?
My overall impression, the first time I watched it was back in 2005. I was a little too young to watch it.
Oh, yeah.
So I closed my eyes through most of the movie and I shut it off. I watched it again for the first time full all the way through by myself. I had my pillow and my blanket. First time I watched it, I absolutely could not understand a single damn part of the movie. So then I went back and rewatched it a couple years later, and I started to understand it a little bit more. And I started to get into it, and I started to. That's where part of my love for psychological horror came from. I was completely blown away with the way that the movie just kind of progressed. It almost seemed like it was a descent into madness, and that
definitely I could see that.
And then it felt almost too real, and it felt like I was in the movie myself, and I was seeing everything from a third person, like maybe I was a ghost in the movie, and I was seeing everything from a third person omnipotent being.
Yeah, it's like you're watching this drama unfold in this family, and it's very tense, and you're like, oh man, you're like a fly on the wall kind of thing. Like I said, the camera work in this movie is phenomenal, man. The cinematography is just really, really good, I think. Yeah, and what's cool about it, you were mentioning the cinematography. This is one of the first movies to use Steadicam. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Reading verbatim from Wikipedia, The Shining was among the first half dozen films after the 1976 films Bound for Glory, Marathon Man, and Rocky to use the newly developed Steadicam, a stabilizing mount for a motion picture camera, which mechanically separates the operator's movement from the camera, allowing smooth tracking shots while the operator is moving over an uneven surface. So it's great. Like you can move up and down, and it's like almost like a. Have you seen some of the new ones? Like almost like a gyroscope, where it's kind of like a sphere. I haven't seen the Steadicams from this one. I've tried finding pictures of them, but I couldn't. But I really love how, like I said, it feels like you're in the movie yourself. And I kind of another interesting thing though. Danny Lloyd, since he was underage, he didn't know. Then when he told him that he was in a horror movie, right? Yeah, he thought he was in a drama. So the way he acted was how I think a lot of it was his real reaction. I think that boy had to go some serious therapy. Yeah. Well, I mean, he doesn't mind talking about it now because I think he was actually in Kansas City this last weekend for a Crypticon, I think.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, I mean, so like for me, yeah, I mean, I think this is a great movie. It's definitely, like you said, Dakota, it's like watching a descent into madness, watching this family kind of fall apart, seeing this character just like his progression, and even when you watch it, this is one of those movies that like really demands a rewatch, because you always catch more things the more you rewatch this movie, and you can kind of see things here and there. And yeah, what's something else you liked about this movie in particular?
The fact that Stanley Kubrick actually wrote out all 500 lines of "All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy." Oh, wow. He actually typed that out himself.
Yeah, somebody had to, I
guess. After watching it a few times and digging into it, there's actually a video on YouTube right now. I'm gonna put it up on the screen. I'm gonna hear the sound. I don't know if you're gonna hear it or not, but it's in my head. But it's Jack Nicholson prepping for The Shining. He's like, you already know he's already crazy as it is. But this is cool because it's got Shelley Duvall going into the bathroom, and he's going like, come on, jumping up and down like a maniac. He picks up the axe and starts like,
oh yeah, I think I have seen that one.
Oh gosh.
What's funny was I think like I heard that they made him eat like cheese sandwiches for like 2 weeks straight to get him to this like agitated state, because it's like a food that he absolutely like hates. And so he was like, that was one of the things that Stanley Kubrick did to like help these people get into these mindsets like that. Just get into like these really agitated mindsets.
Yeah. See, he's like, I love Jack Nicholson just because he's got crazy in his eyes already.
Oh yeah. I mean, one of the things that, and I will say this is, I mean, I think Jack Nicholson, he's a good actor, but I think in this movie, I think it borders on overacting a little bit for me. I think the term is chewing the scenery. I think he does that a little bit in this movie.
Oh, do you know that the scene that he actually does in when he's actually chopping down the door, that's real. He's actually doing it himself. So he's
I saw that.
It's crazy. He is, but apparently he actually used to be a volunteer fireman. So the prop door that they put up for him to hit was so easy for him to break down. They actually had to use a real door. So
yeah.
And you were talking about overacting. Jack Nicholson, he's got this thing about him where he does kind of overact. But I really like how he acts. Shelley Duvall in that scene where, obviously the door scene, where he's breaking down the door, her acting in that was almost shitty, for lack of a better term. Just because, like that face, like little life.
Yeah. Yeah, she really did play the whole part of like this very timid, the very timid woman that's been like, basically like, I feel like, in this relationship she's been like kind of like really worn down, and you can see that like even in the very beginning you see that there's a lot of tension between her and her husband. And that she's very like timid and doesn't want to set him off. She wants to like kind of toe the line and walk on the tightrope, and she doesn't want to say anything that's gonna. She just wants to like please him basically, But that leaves her in this like very very kind of like defeated like state, throughout the movie, and so I think that it's hard to like really talk about in depth, but like with some of the things that happen at the end, yeah, you could say okay, she's kind of like acting crappy, but. I think for me, I think she did okay. She acted like a woman that was frightened for her life and for her son's life. But she definitely had her own take on it. Shelley Winters, had Shelley Duvall. Sorry, wrong person. So her acting didn't really bother me too much.
Yeah. So here's another interesting fact. The outtakes of the opening panorama shots were later used by Ridley Scott for the closing moments of the original cut of the film Blade Runner from '82, which is cool. I mean, so a lot of those were interior shots, but I think they used Glacier Mountain Park in Montana for some of the films for the aerial shots, and then the Timberline Lodge, obviously, in Mount Hood in Oregon, where they filmed the actual outside Outlook Hotel.
Man, I was trying to think of like what in Blade Runner would even closely resemble anything in this movie. I don't know. I'd have to watch it again, I guess. There
were three really big name actors that were turned down for the lead role of Jack Torrance. Robert De Niro, Robin Williams, and Harrison Ford were all turned down by Stephen King.
Oh yeah, I couldn't see Robin Williams in that at all. No.
I mean, I think it would have been too. I think his acting would have been too forced. So.
Yeah, I just think of like Mork and Mindy. I don't know if you've ever seen that old TV show.
Yeah, I've seen Mork and Mindy. My dad was obsessed with that show.
Yeah, Nanu. I think that he would have the axe and he would just like look at the camera and like have this goofy grin on his face or something. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think that would have been kind of cool. Was like when like the little insane moments. There's actually a lot of interpretations of this, like just how messed up the movie is, and how I guess there's been a lot of reports of people who watched the movie who've gone insane. I don't see why, but
I mean, it could definitely mess like. I think it's it's definitely like a weird, like kind of surreal kind of movie. There's lots of interesting visuals and things that can. I don't know. Yeah, I guess if somebody's just in the wrong frame of mind and they're watching it, it could affect them. I don't. Yeah, but
I would hate to. I would hate to watch the movie high. Just saying, I would. Like.
Yeah.
It's like tripping on shrooms. If you were to watch this movie tripping on shrooms, particularly the old woman scene.
I can't even watch that
God,
scene.
It's awful.
Yeah. I have to just like fast forward or something. I can't do it. It makes me gag.
Yeah, I can't either. That's the worst scene in the movie. But it's the worst scene in the movie, but it's probably the best. Yeah, it is. You got to admit, it is one of the best visually striking scenes in the movie, besides the hallway scene.
Yeah. Well, and like, you know, thinking about this movie, like, you know, I think one of the biggest questions, like, okay, so we're talking about this movie. It's supposed to be a scary movie. Is it scary? And I would say, yeah, this is a very scary movie. This is one that still, like, scares me. Like, even after watching it several times, and I'm trying to think about, like, what about it scares me, and I think it's the watching a character go insane, but also just the atmosphere of the hotel. I think this is one of those movies where they don't show you a whole lot as far as, like, ghosts, things like that. Well, if they are ghosts, I don't want to, like, go too far into it, but this is a perfect example of, like, what you don't see is scarier, and I think that this hotel has that just weird, eerie vibe to it, and I think that's scary too in and of itself. And just thinking about being a little kid like Danny, you know, riding your big wheel around this empty hotel and then just running into the, you know, seeing what he saw is just, oh my gosh. But yeah, those are definitely, like, scary scenes. And I thought the story was interesting. You know, it definitely kept you, like, interested. I noticed that the runtime for this movie is like 2.5 hours long, but it really doesn't feel like it. I don't know about you, but I feel like this movie went by pretty quick.
Yeah, at 144 minutes in the American release was 144 minutes. Mm-hmm. In Europe, it was only 119 minutes.
Okay.
There's about 25 minutes in the movie that was cut out, and there's, for obvious reasons, Europe has a lot stricter, like, censorship laws,
right? Yeah,
especially in the 80s. But at 144 minutes, you wouldn't think it'd be as uncomfortably short as it was. But I mean, it delivered the shock value that a horror movie should deliver, which is great. I mean, you want that short little time frame where you get all this story thrown in, and I think a lot of the Stephen King adaptations were kind of short. I mean, Dreamcatcher specifically, that movie was incredibly short. It felt like there was so much stuff crammed in, but it still got to that point. Christine, the exact same. Well, actually, Christine actually felt really long. What about you? Do you think Christine felt really long?
Not particularly. It's been a while since I've seen it, though.
Yeah. I mean, this movie, as far as it is scary, and it is, I think the scary part about it, it's classified as psychological horror. So, it's that slow descent into madness that just gets you, and it's not about the physical horror, like slasher films, monster movies, stuff like that. I think it was one of the first very good examples of psychological horror, and it blows my mind that in the 80s this was one of the go-to movies that was the epitome of horror. Much like how Halloween and Friday the 13th and A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Well, yeah, I mean, in the midst of all those movies, yeah, this is definitely a standout film. I mean, this came out in 1980, so this is like right when this is just before I feel like you had Halloween in 1978. You had, I know, Friday the 13th that came out in 1980, I think. But so this is kind of like right in the midst of like the uptick of like the slasher movies. In certain aspects, I can see it. There's definitely like tropes in this that would lend itself to like the slasher movie, but it's not a slasher movie. Like you said, the horror is more psychological in nature. But I think, you know, you got to give Stanley Kubrick a lot of credit, because I think just the way that he got the actors to work together, and you know they really played off well. You know, Jack and Wendy really kind of played off well off each other. I feel like I said, the cinematography is great. The pacing, this thing doesn't have. I mean, it's a slow burn, I guess, so called, that, you know, people use that term. it is a slow burn. There's not a lot of action, but I feel like there's a nice pace set. So there's like definitely tension building throughout the movie. Something's going to happen, but you don't quite know what it's going to be. And I think like he keeps that pace going throughout the whole movie. And I definitely like the music too. I thought the music was good. The score was good. What special effects there were, I liked. This is very much a minimalistic. I mean, there are some shots in the movie that are not minimalistic in the least, but overall, this movie is kind of more of a minimalistic type horror movie. This isn't about blood and guts. This is about the psychological factor. Yeah, Dakota. So, kind of give us your like final overall thoughts on The Shining.
For me, The Shining is the epitome of what psychological horror should be. Something that's going to take you, bend you over, and start racking your face with a hammer. I don't want to get too graphic, but it's almost make your head hurt. Just to picture all these things and see the family get torn apart because of a psychotic break. And not necessarily, we don't know that there wasn't any real illusion that it wasn't real and that it was real. But I honestly feel like if this movie was to ever be remade, it would not be as good as the original. And that is saying something. That's saying that nobody can live up to the way Stanley Kubrick did his work. And the fact that Stephen King, the novel itself was great. But turning it into a movie, Stanley Kubrick has done a good job with every single one of Stephen King. I think he's done how many? Like three Stephen King stories that have all been films.
Oh wait, you talking about Stephen King movies or adaptations of Stephen King books?
Yeah,
there's been a lot, but
how many of them that Stanley Kubrick did?
Oh, I think just this one.
Okay, well, of everything that Stanley Kubrick has done, anyways, have all been great. Like Clockwork Orange and Full Metal Jacket, both really great movies. But this one, I feel it would be his crowning achievement, just because taking a name like Stephen King and mixing it with Stanley Kubrick and creating this epic movie.
Well, and I guess like Stephen King really doesn't like this version of it either, from what I heard.
Well, I mean, that's kind of how authors are. I mean, J.K. Rowling doesn't like a lot of stuff that went into the Harry Potter movies.
Yeah. So, yeah, my thoughts on this, and like I said, it's definitely achieved its goal of scaring the crap out of you. The story's interesting. The performances are good. Like I said, I thought that Jack Nicholson kind of overacted in some places, but I thought Danny Lloyd did really he was great in this. The little boy, especially when he's doing Tony, he kind of switched back and forth. He had this other persona that he had, and it was really creepy. He was really good at switching between the two personalities and turning off Danny's emotions when Tony was talking and things like that. I thought that was like a really challenging role for him, I would think, at that age. This movie has great visuals, a creepy score. It has an awesome setting with that hotel. And I remember, like, they even mentioned that the hotel is built on an Indian burial ground, so nothing good is gonna come from that. I think that's funny that they had that in there. There's great writing in this. I think good dialogue. Yeah, there's a lot we could talk about. I mean, and we didn't even really talk about the whole concept of The Shining, but like how Danny has this ability, and we find out that the head chef Halloran, he also has this ability, and it's like almost like a psychic ability where these people with what they call The Shining can like talk to each other like without even like really talking, just like talk to each other mentally. I think it's a really interesting concept to think about, because you think about, okay, so Danny has The Shining, so where did he get it from? Did he get it from one of his parents? Was it passed down to him? Or was it something that he just got just because? I don't know. But it's interesting if you think about it. You think about some of the things that like Jack saw. Like, does he have The Shining? Was he seeing things that was from the past? Things like that. There's lots of cool discussion that can come from this movie, definitely. As far as like the negatives, I'd say they're probably like nitpicks. I noticed there was some like continuity issues with some of the editing. I thought like maybe like one or two decisions didn't make sense that the characters did. And some of the editing is kind of abrupt. Well, and I think that's probably on purpose. It switches back and forth between scenes here and there. But overall, I mean, and that's just nitpicks. It's a great movie. I can't really say too much bad about it, you know. So yeah, I mean, let's get into our ratings then, Dakota. I'll let you go ahead and give your rating on it.
I'm actually going to split it down into 3 different types of ratings.
Okay.
We're doing an assault the shot scale.
I mean, you can if you want.
I mean, it seems like a better scale to me, anyways. But
okay,
1 shot just to get through with the visuals.
Okay.
1 shot for audio, and then 1 shot for the whole damn thing. So if we were translating, it'd be 9 out of 10 for me.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, And would you say people to just go out and buy it even if they haven't seen it, or to rent it first?
Buy it.
Buy it?
Definitely buy it. Buy the special edition if there is one, and then buy all the memorabilia you can for it, because you'd become my best friend.
Yeah, well, I definitely say that this is it's a classic. It's regarded as a classic, and I think it's earned that title. I'm giving this an 8 out of 10. Just because, you know, there's a couple of things that I don't know, that I couldn't quite get past, but overall it's a really good movie. I would say it's definitely one to have in your collection if you're a horror fan. You know, I would say you're safe to buy it. You're probably going to like it. You know, but at the very least rent it. And heck, you know, it's on Netflix right now, you know, so you can actually watch it on Netflix. If you already have a Netflix subscription. So I would say definitely check it out. Like I said, it's 2 hours and 24 minutes. So it's a longer movie, but like I said, it goes by quick. So that's going to wrap up episode 30 for Black Cat Shadow. Talking about Colorado and The Shining. So like we said, if you want to get a hold of us, we'd love to hear some feedback from you guys. I'd love to see iTunes reviews, anything like that. And speaking of that, I wanted to give a shout out to a fellow podcaster because he recently gave us a iTunes review, and it really helps us out. I want to give a shout out to a podcast called The Horror Corridor, and that is a solo cast with Mr. Watson, and he does a fantastic job. He puts out a quality podcast. He reviews horror movies, music, books, anything kind of revolving around the world of horror he talks about. And he has a very intellectual spin on it. He comes from like a psychology background, so he has a really like smart view on horror movies where, you know, I just kind of like talk from my gut, where he kind of like can talk about like Freudian type things or things like that. Anyway, I would say definitely go check out his podcast. It's on the Horrorphilia Network. You can also just find it on iTunes by searching for Horror Corridor. And yeah, so I appreciate his supporting of our show, and I try to support his show as much as I can. But yeah, like I said, that's just one way to support us, is leaving an iTunes review, or just like giving us feedback to help us make the show better, things like that. And we also have a Patreon account where you can support us monetarily. Well, there's 2 ways you can do that. You can give us a pledge on our Patreon page, or you can go to our eBay movie store and buy a movie from us. So either way, you can support us financially in those 2 ways. But yeah, if you want to get a hold of us, our email is blackcatpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter @blackcatpodcast. And we're also on Facebook and Horror Amino. Just search for Black Cat Shadow and you'll find us there. Our website's www.blackcatshadow.com, where you can find all of our episodes on there, where you can listen to for free. And so Dakota, let people know how people can get a hold of you if they'd like to.
Yeah, guys. Right now my social media game's been lacking because of the baby. We're really close. By the time this comes out, maybe the baby might be here. We never know. But if you guys want to get a hold of me, you can email me, dakshadowbane@gmail.com. I'll throw that up on the screen so you guys can see it. So you can just email me. Also, you guys want to reach out to me on Horrormino. That is Rainstorm, RAIYN Storm 01, all one word. Probably within the next couple days, I'm going to be posting some pretty cool stuff. I don't know. Just depends on like how this week goes for me. But like Andy said, our Patreon page, I know a lot of people don't want to, get monetarily involved in something like this, but it helps us bring better content and more content. There's a lot of stuff that we're having planned coming, and I know we announced the other day that Phantom Dark Dave is going to be joining us on the podcast as a regular co-host, which is great. More stuff for us to do, better content coming.
Okay, and I forgot to mention Dave is part of the team now. He's been a guest on a few of the episodes of the past, and he's not going to be on like every regular episode. So he is going to be bringing us some awesome interviews with all kinds of like people in the movie world and music world and comic book world and things like that. So he has a real passion for talking to people and doing interviews. So he's going to help us in that facet. So we're really excited about the interviews that he's going to bring.
Yeah, guys, with Dave coming on, it's going to be something really cool, especially with the interviews. If you guys actually do want to request an interview from anybody, you can shoot us an email, and we'll obviously pass it along to Dave. We have a huge database. Dave is kind of being a filmmaker and being a writer. He's got a huge database of people that he can contact, and we've contacted a few already, and we're hoping to hear back from them, so we can bring you that awesome content. So
I'm looking forward to these interviews. It's something that people are going to want to listen to. It's going to be interesting topics that we talk about, interesting people, things like that. People that you probably have actually heard of, and maybe some that you haven't, that you want to discover. So I think it's going to be good. We're definitely glad to have him as part of the team. I think it's just going to make the show that much better. All right, so that's, like I said, it's going to wrap it up for us, guys. Not sure what the next episode's going to be. It may just be an interview, so stay tuned and to see what that's going to be. And remember, guys, to take a closer look at the world around you. And you may just find that it is stranger and more mysterious than you thought, especially in the Black Cat Shadow.